Good morning, YouTubers. I thought today would be a great day to do a quick video where we talk about stingers and stick welding gloves and give you a couple quick tips to help you out with how to hold these. And obviously you're no dummy, you know you can just pick these up and hold them, but I have a couple tips that'll actually help you. Just wait and see. Let's get into it. So in front of here, I have a cheap stinger that came with that Amazon special welder, and then I have what Miller commonly ships, which is a Lenco. This is a AF25 250 amp stinger. Now they have these in assorted sizes and amp capacities, so you may have one that looks like this that's somewhat different, but for the sake of what we're doing here, it doesn't really matter. Now, there is an actual proper way to hold these guys, and let me explain. And I'll start out with this guy. When I've taught people how to stick weld, and when I was learning, I had a tendency to like grab it like this maybe, or even like way up in here. And the problem with doing this is, for one, if you stick the rod, it takes you an excessive amount of time to squeeze it to be able to pull it off the rod, so that's no good. And two, because you're locked in here, it can hurt your manipulation of the rod, especially when you need to weld out of position. And third, which is something that you don't realize that you probably do, is when you have your whole hand over this like this, and I have a very bad tendency, I squeeze, and due to maybe like anxiety or just not paying attention to where like how hard I'm squeezing. And I do the same thing with like pens and pencils, but I squeeze this hard and it severely limits your movement. And for a fun little exercise, just take the stinger you got, put your whole hand on it and just lightly squeeze it. I'm talking just put pressure on it, and then try and move your wrist, okay? You're gonna notice that the more pressure you squeeze this with, the harder it is to manipulate your wrist. And that's why a long time ago, I kind of came to the realization for a lot of things, I grab this by two fingers with two hanging off. And if you squeeze with two of your fingers, you can still actually move your wrist, if you look here, pretty good while getting a firm grip on this. So like a mental thing is that you know it's not going to fall out of your hands, which is good, but your wrist movement is not really as limited versus here. Do this and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And the trick is, for me at least, when I grab it down here, to lightly hold it, because the lighter you hold it, the easier your wrist is to roll and maneuver, and that will help you make better stick welds. I also have a tendency to grab a stinger up here, and you'll see me occasionally in videos where I'll grab it up here and feed in a rod. That's kind of a bad habit to get into, and I do it occasionally, and the reason is that if you're welding with the rod out this way or any kind of, out here, it's very easy to get a ball of molten metal welding uphill to fall right here, and it will burn through your gloves or on your thumb. It will burn through the glove on your skin and burn your skin, so you want to be careful of that. Now let me put this glove on here and show you something. This glove, which is a standard stick welding glove, is extremely thick. Now, I have big hands. I'm a pretty big guy. Well, when I put a glove on and try and grab it up here, and this would be my normal position, I find that most stingers, the handle hits this knuckle, which forces me down here. Well, there are some times where I might want to weld up here with three fingers on it, maybe four on it. And I ended up taking a heat gun or a torch, I think, and then getting this really hot and then bending it up to where it wouldn't hit this knuckle. And I find a lot of stingers, if you have big hands like me, you may want to modify the handle on there so it works. And it's still, if I stick a rod, it's still very easy to come over here. I've seen guys hold these like this, and your thumb has got to be pretty strong. I mean, I can, but it's far easier with 2 fingers here than it is with your thumb to do this. So I don't find that, you know, welding like this, I never really like that. I prefer this way. Now on the cheaper Stinger, the funny thing is, look where the handle is. Like, I actually honestly find this more comfortable to weld with, this little guy, than this Lenco. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Lenco ones, which is why I'm actually going to swap this out for a Lincoln Electric with a different style handle. Because I'm a fan of, and this is a fairly short barrel just like this, but I like the handle to be up out of the way. I like a fairly light Stinger. Now this is pretty heavy duty. I mean, being a 250 amp, you know, very solid jaw in there. But I like the way that this fits and feels in my hand. I like a light Stinger. You know, having a heavier Stinger, to me, it can be a positive and it can be a detriment. Out of position welding, it's harder for me with a heavier Stinger to weld, but than a lighter one. But I really like the way that this handle works. So again, like I said, if you got big hands or wear big thick gloves, it may be a benefit to go to a different style Stinger. And also, since I said I'd mention some stuff about gloves, so far I bought these a while ago. They've been holding up pretty nice. I've done quite a number of jobs, most of which you haven't seen me do because I didn't film them, because they're all just simple stick welding jobs, so not a big deal. But yeah, get yourself a good pair of gloves. It helps a lot. Like, the flexibility of these is really good. I mean, they're a little tight on my hands, but you know, and like I said, get yourself a good Stinger. Another recommendation for a Stinger, Harbor Freight has a, I think it's a Burger, whatever brand Stinger. That actually is pretty decent. That's very comparable to this Lenco, but I found, if I recall correctly, the strap on it is in a, or the handle's in a better spot. So that's a good one. And Lincoln Electric has a bunch of good ones. ESAB has the standard one they put out on their stick welders, and multi-process welders also is pretty good. Oh, almost forgot. Let me go and grab a rod and show you guys something. One of the things that cheap Stingers have, like if you look in here, this one's not too bad, but, and I'll chuck a rod in here. So that's not too bad. You see this angle that this comes out here? That's pretty decent. I find a lot of these things, for some unknown reason, put where the rod clamps here. Now, I've done a lot of stick welding, and it's pretty uncommon to have to weld like this. I mean, it's almost useless. So I kind of find that a minor annoyance. Now, obviously, you can just put a rod in the jaw, like right, if I can get it right here. And then you can just hold it, bend it, and then you can turn it and get whatever angle you want. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of that because you end up breaking the flux off, whatever. But that's also an option too if your Stinger has odd angles. Let me check what this one is. If I recall correctly, this one's a little steep, and I'll position it. Yeah, this one's actually a little bit steep too. This isn't the bent direction, I straightened it. So, you know, I don't know. Again, not a big deal, it's just something to think of. You know, I prefer a shallower angle, like somewhere like around there. That's useful. Coming down where some of them, like I said, I have literally owned some that are like this, completely useless. Anyways, there you have it. If you got a favorite Stinger that you really like, put it in the comments. I'm sure other people will look at it as well, and it might also be their favorite or come to be their favorite. So anyways, thanks for sticking around for the video. Pretty quick video. See you guys around.